It is one interesting angle there. Like, can you trick AI into sort of indexing content that it wasn't expecting? Because, there's still a human deciding which content gets included in these models. And if that human makes a mistake or sees a site that looks completely harmless and they go, oh, this
Is
looks like
there
it has
though?
good content. What is there? What?
Is there that? I didn't even think there was that form of gatekeeping just from the sheer volume of content that it's got to digest
It's
or
got to.
ingest.
There's still someone who decides what data is trained by the model. It's still a human team that decides that, right? It's not
Wouldn't
just
that be a
going out on the internet and
huge? Wouldn't that be a huge style? I mean, you think of the amount that it's
yeah.
ingested would take probably teams years and years and years to kind of work through. I stand to be corrected. That was my understanding, but
What's the alternative? There's no real other way it can be done. It still has to be a human deciding what data. I mean, I'm sure they've got huge servers that they just sort of add in all this data to petabytes and then just sort of train a model on that. But still is, traditionally at least, maybe in the future, obviously AIs will go and decide what they want to grab from the internet. But at least these initial models are definitely all human collated.
okay.
And I'm sure they have to be, in a way, at least like a list of everything it was trained on. There's a whole copyright thing going on right now too with what's OpenAI CEO's name again?
Someone
Jeez, I don't know
Altman.
why.
Yeah,
Sam Altman, yeah.
Sam
Jeez, I
Altman,
don't know why
yeah.
that's yeah. So he's having a huge thing at the moment, legally trying to say like copyright material needs to be completely open to AI models to get trained on. There should be no sort of legislation around that, because if that's not the case, then they lose. Like America, if that's legislation, America will lose their AI arms race because competitors out there in other countries will just churn it all up and use anything that's out there. Now there's definitely a human collated sort of database of that, but in the future, if it's AI is just going out and grabbing it all, there has to be some way, like if it came back with the wrong answer, like a really bad answer, like how to build a bomb, how did that information get into this AI model, like where did it come from? And there has to be some sort of audit trail. If AIs are just going out in the future and just deciding on their own what's relevant, then yeah, that'll be interesting to try and work out.
There's such radical changes happening. 5 years, and then it probably will be, that's probably the time that we'll see search engines completely changing, and it's going to be interesting to be a part of that as well.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's going to be 5 years.
I think some things to think about for a future is how is AI and humans developing a complementary role in information processing? Like just to something to think about, like how is that going to evolve? Obviously we have AI agents. Do you have one always running in the background for you? Is that something that's the only way that it could be complementary? Is there anything else that you could think of?
Well, you mean besides Neuralink?
What's that?
Because Neuralink, that's the step that's going to be ideal. Being able to just tap into that and just an extension of your own intelligence is.
We all become Morpheus and Neo.
Yeah, and it's actually,
Trinity.
It's probably not that far off. When I always think back to that, and it was like, wow, that's really great. But now, what is the difference? I remember that one scene where I think they're putting the specs on the military helicopter, like how to fly it.
Oh yeah.
It's probably not that. If you had a Neuralink or something, you could probably even have the muscle memory kind of baked into a download to be able to. To pilot something like that. It's
can't be too hard. You're just monitoring pulses from your spine to your, your joints and your muscles. So that's easy stuff.
Yeah, that's the easy part. But I think one thing that'll definitely, I guess, just outside of asking for knowledge and requesting knowledge, is just having something that has a huge memory that's just constantly running, listening to you the whole day, everything that you say, everything that you type in your computer, every human interaction that you have, everything that you're looking at. If you think of like, Google Glass and things like that are sort of monitoring what you're looking at. It's just basically recording your every single day, every single interaction that you have. You'll be able to literally ask like 3 years ago on this day, what was I doing that day? And instantly you get the answer. And just sort of having that augmented memory, just sort of sitting there outside of just asking it to do things to you, just having all that knowledge of your whole life just permanently available is going to be a very different sort of paradigm too, just because it's just so easy to look back and ask it what's going on, and it knows everything about you, and you can literally build a model of you, I guess, if you had it running your whole life. I mean, it knows you so well. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
And you sort of say, give me an honest, how am I doing in this thing called life? You're about 45%.
Real talk.
You're way below.
Yeah.